I never imagined that surviving heart surgery would lead me to stand outside my own home with a suitcase at my feet and a key that no longer worked. 3 weeks earlier, doctors had opened my chest, stopped my heart, and brought me back. I believed the hard part was over. I believed I was going home to family. The hospital discharge papers trembled slightly in my hand, not from fear, but from weakness. My body was still learning how to exist again. The nurse smiled politely as she handed me my coat and reminded me to take things slow. I nodded, thanked her, and stepped outside into the cool spring air of Riverton, a quiet city known for rain and long streets lined with identical houses. The taxi ride home felt longer than it should have. Every bump in the road sent a dull ache through my chest, a reminder of how close I'd come to dying. I stared out the window, imagining familiar things. The red front door, the soft porch light, my granddaughter's drawings taped to the refrigerator. I told myself my son was probably busy. That silence didn't mean absence. I had spent years helping him stay afloat, paid off his car, covered the mortgage when money was tight, helped with school fees, groceries, emergencies. I never kept score. Family wasn't a transaction. Or so I thought. When the taxi pulled away, the street was quiet. Too quiet. The house at the end of the cul-de-sac stood dark, every window unlit. I approached slowly, my bag heavy in my hand. I slid the key into the lock and turned it. Nothing happened. I tried again, harder this time. The metal scraped uselessly. The lock had been changed. Confusion hit first, then disbelief. I knocked once, then again. I called out his name, my voice thin in the night air. No answer. I checked the side door, locked, the back door, locked. A cold realization crept in as rain began to soak through my coat. Then I saw the suitcase. It sat beside the garage like discarded luggage at an airport. Old, brown, mine. A yellow note was weighed down by a small rock. I picked it up, my hand shaking as I read the words written in familiar handwriting. There are only 3 of us now. Find somewhere else. Signed by my own son. My knees gave out. Gravel pressed into my skin as the meaning settled. After everything, after the surgery, after nearly dying. I called his number straight to voicemail. I called again, then his wife. Nothing. I sat there in the rain, holding a piece of paper that erased decades of sacrifice in 2 sentences. Eventually, I dragged the suitcase to the curb and called a motel. The room smelled of damp carpet and old coffee. I unpacked slowly, each shirt reminding me of the life I thought I still had. My bank app glowed on my phone screen, the mortgage payment still scheduled, still withdrawing, still funding a home I was no longer allowed to enter. That was when something shifted. Buried in my suitcase was a folded statement I hadn't looked at in years. My name, my signature, the loan, the truth I'd ignored for too long. The house wasn't really his. It never had been. For the first time since the surgery, my chest tightened for a different reason. Not weakness, clarity. They thought I was finished. They thought survival made me disposable. They were wrong, and this was only the beginning. If you're still listening, make sure to subscribe, because what happens next turns everything upside down. Morning came without rest. Sleep never really arrived, only shallow moments where my mind drifted and snapped back awake. The motel room felt smaller in daylight, its faded walls and buzzing light reminding me that I had been erased overnight. I showered carefully, mindful of my chest, then sat on the edge of the bed and looked again at the folded bank statement in my hands. The truth was simple and brutal. My name was still on the mortgage, every payment, every signature, every obligation. I hadn't just helped them, I had carried them. I called the bank before the front desk even finished brewing coffee. The representative confirmed what I already knew, but needed to hear. I had full control. I could modify, suspend, or cancel payments at my discretion. The house existed because I allowed it to. When the call ended, the room felt quieter, not empty, focused. I stepped outside and walked slowly through Riverton's damp streets. Rain clung to the air, soft and persistent. Each step hurt, but it grounded me. The city moved around me, unaware that something had shifted. I wasn't chasing revenge. I was reclaiming dignity. A familiar voice stopped me halfway down a residential block. It was Marilyn Foster, an old neighbor who'd lived 2 houses down for years. She stood on her porch, arms crossed, eyes sharp, in a way that told me she'd already seen everything. She didn't ask what happened. She already knew. She invited me in, handed me a mug of coffee, and listened without interrupting. When I finished, she didn't offer sympathy. She offered strategy. She had spent years managing budgets, contracts, disputes. She understood leverage. She understood consequences. And she understood something my son had forgotten. People don't discard the hand that feeds them without eventually feeling hunger. That morning, we walked into the bank together. The forms were simple. My signature was steady. I canceled the automatic mortgage payments and confirmed the change would take effect immediately. No drama, no raised voices, just quiet authority. As we stepped back outside, my phone buzzed for the first time since the lockout. His wife's name flashed across the screen. I didn't answer. That afternoon the messages came faster. Confusion turned to panic. Panic turned to accusation. Words like unfair and cruel replaced silence. But none of them asked how I was healing. None of them apologized. The house notice arrived 2 days later. Late payment. Default warning. That evening, my son finally called. His voice cracked somewhere between anger and fear. He accused me of betrayal. I reminded him of the note, of the suitcase, of the lock. Silence followed. In the days that came next, everything they'd built on my silence began to crumble. Bills they'd never paid surfaced. Financial truths they'd hidden came into the light. And every time my phone buzzed, I felt less pain and more distance. I moved into a small rental on the edge of the city. Nothing fancy. Quiet, clean, mine. I framed one photo and placed it on the counter, my granddaughter smiling, unaware of the war her parents had started. I made one decision that night. No matter how this ended, she would be protected, and no matter how loud they shouted, I would never beg to be let back into a house I had already outgrown. They thought locking me out ended the story. They didn't realize it had just reached the part where actions finally mattered. If you think this was harsh, wait until you hear what happened next. The notice arrived sooner than I expected. Official, unforgiving. The bank didn't care about family drama or broken promises. It only recognized signatures, numbers, and responsibility. And all of those pointed back to me. By then, I had already taken steps to protect the only innocent person in the mess. A small trust was set up quietly. Education, stability, a future untouched by bitterness. My granddaughter would not pay for her parents' choices. They did. The house deteriorated fast once the illusion collapsed. Missed payments stacked up. Warnings followed. Neighbors noticed moving boxes. The lawn grew wild. The porch light stopped coming on at night. Everything I once maintained was left to rot without me. Then came the knock. I opened the door to my son standing alone. No anger this time, no certainty, just a man stripped of borrowed confidence. He didn't ask to come in. He didn't need to. His eyes said enough. He admitted what I already knew. The lock, the note, the decision. All of it had been easier when he believed I was weak, when he thought survival had made me smaller. He was wrong. I listened. I didn't interrupt. And when he finished, I told him the truth calmly and without cruelty. I forgave him, but forgiveness didn't mean restoration. Some doors, once closed, are meant to stay that way. The house was lost within weeks. Legal papers replaced family photos. Silence replaced entitlement. The life they built on my sacrifice collapsed the moment I stepped away from it. I moved forward. My new home was modest. Quiet mornings, fresh air, space to heal. Maryland became a constant presence, not a savior, a reminder that strength doesn't always come from blood. I saw my granddaughter again, from a distance at first. Laughter still sounded the same. Her world hadn't ended. It never needed to. Mine had simply changed. I learned something no surgery could teach me. Survival isn't about clinging to people who abandon you. It's about standing firm when they assume you won't. They thought throwing me out would erase me. Instead, it revealed exactly who held the foundation all along. If you've ever been betrayed by the people you sacrificed everything for, remember this. Kindness without boundaries becomes permission. And survival doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous in ways they never expected. If this story moved you, subscribe to the channel, share your thoughts in the comments, and let us know where you're listening from. Your voice matters, and so does your story. Thank you for listening.